Well, thank you for talking to me. I am always happy to talk about a show with a dog because who doesn't want to do that?
Definitely. Agreed.
Although when you did this, I mean, was there like a conversation in the beginning when you were like, does this involve hazard pay because of all the dog drool? Like, was there any sort of initial conversation about just what you were getting yourself into?
Oh my gosh. Well, these French Mastiffs, I think, might have the most talented salivary glands of any dog breed. I'm not sure the drool load comes close with any other dog, but yeah, I mean, there were just moments where I'd have like a 150-pound, dog on my chest, cutting off circulation to my diaphragm while also like bathing me in their saliva and thinking like, if I wasn't a dog person before, I surely am one now. And and I don't think I've mentioned this at all yet. And then, when we would need them to lick my face, they'd have to first put on like a layer of baby food, of like chicken baby food, and then the dog would lick my face. So it was like double disgusting. It's like if the dog food didn't, or the dog licking didn't make you want to gag, the baby food did.
So you just had to embrace the gross with this show.
Totally. And eventually you just give over to it and you're like, oh, just have me. I'm just a gigantic toy for you.
After doing this, have you learned any tricks for making a dog drool less, or is that just not possible?
Yes. If you want them to drool less, don't feed them like too many treats. And obviously our dogs, like they react for treats, they react for treats, much like myself. And so, you'd constantly see like after each take, if they were getting a little bit of like meat or cheese or something, that it just was like the waterfall would begin. So sometimes we'd be like, all right, let's do a treat every other take, just so that we don't need to bring in like a whole mop team after this.
When the opportunity to lead this show came your way, what was your reaction to that? Had you been familiar with the movie? Were you immediately curious about it?
It's a great question. It's funny. I think Turner Hooch, for me, like many people, is in that there are some people I know who haven't seen the movie, but there's no one I know who hasn't heard of it. It just has like incredible name recognition. And I had seen bits and pieces, but I didn't watch the whole thing until I knew I was auditioning for the movie. And so I felt really excited at this idea that it was a continuation. It was paying homage to the original, but it wasn't a remake, which I think is just dangerous territory because you don't want to mess with people's memories. They're very sensitive. So I just love the idea of jumping back into family fare, which I've always sort of, paid my dues. It's where I come from, in this new elevated way that was a challenge for me and not kind of just like the typical sort of broad comedy stuff that I'd always done.
Was it ever completely surreal when you were recreating the poster that Tom Hanks had done for the movie?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's just, he's always, someone like Tom Hanks is always in your mind because he's just one of our greatest, one of the greatest actors of a generation. And he did this at such an interesting time in his career because he had like just finished Big, but he hadn't done Forrest Gump yet. So, he's like right at the precipice of like the apex of his powers and ability. And so I think we were just all sort of banding together to do something that hopefully would make him proud. And I don't know if Disney's been sending him early episodes, but if you want just, Mr. Hanks, if you want to see some, I have a couple I can email to you. I'd love to share them with you. And yes, we can have coffee anytime. I'll come to you.
It's such a fun show. I can't imagine he wouldn't enjoy it in some way.
I hope so. I hope he likes it and I hope he feels, we just tried to honor him in the memory of the original.
You've led and played the title character of a show before. How different does it feel doing that at this point in your life?
Well, I think what's exciting is helping to sort of launch what's a bit of a new streaming service in Disney Plus and being part of something that is really building, and it's building at a wild pace because, my wife and I just fell in love with, we just watched the first episode of the new Mighty Ducks series, and my friend John Stamos is starring in Big Shot. Like, I think the shows that are already on Disney Plus are so good. So it's exciting to be starting something new. And also, I just feel like I love doing family fare, but I think for the most part, we've always seen things that either really appeal to kids and parents begrudgingly watch with their kids and vice versa. And it's rare to have something where each demographic can completely find something to love about the show, be it the action adventure stuff with the US Marshals, the rom-com, the cute dog stuff. I mean, I truly believe there's something for everyone. And McG directed our pilot. Yeah. So it looks really good too, which I think is important.
Yeah, that's been one of the things that I found really impressive about these shows is I've watched, the whole season for the Mighty Ducks series. I've watched all of Big Shot. I've watched the episodes we've been given for this. And it's amazing how with each one, it recreates that feeling that, a lot of the movies or shows or things of the time period of Turner and Hooch had that sense of, they're just sweet and fun, and it puts a smile on your face and feels like a warm hug when you're watching it. And it's kind of tricky to do without feeling too sappy or sentimental.
It's a great point. No, I think that's a really good assessment. You're right. Like, it's just high-end family material that I'm not sure has been done in a really long time. And I think, I just think it was really smart of Disney Plus to realize that there's so many streamers out there. Like, what can we do great? What can we do that's specific to us, that's maybe an untapped market? And I think they're really succeeding in this way.
When you do something like this, where obviously the relationship with the dog is so important, at what point did you meet and start working with the dogs? What was it like to sort of develop a relationship with 5 of them?
So even in the audition, actually, and it was when I knew I was working with really smart collaborators, they told me, you're going to be auditioning with a dog. It wasn't actually a French Mastiff. It was like a Great Dane. I think it was like the only giant movie dog that was available that day. And you're going to be working with a dog and be ready to improvise, because obviously we know the dogs will do what they want, and it's incumbent on us to adjust, which immediately made me feel like, wow, people like the creator, Matt Nix, they get it, because I've certainly worked with animals before, and I've worked with certain people that have been like, wait, the dog's not going to bark right at the moment we need it to, and be, stay on its mark perfectly. Like, well, no, it's an animal, and it'll get close to that, and then we'll adjust. So I think that was like a big part of it, was knowing that. And then basically I flew to Vancouver, quarantined for 2 weeks. And then we had 2 weeks of prep before starting to film. And the dog trainers were like, hi, you're going to be our new best friend now. And it was just like, a lot of times it was just hanging out with the dogs, because they had to trust you and feel comfortable. So it was like, let them know that I am literally a Pez dispenser when it comes to treats, that every time they're around me, they're just going to be rewarded, and it's going to be a love fest. And then we would start practicing certain tricks, whether it was like getting one of the dogs to like stick his head through my arm, or, jump up on me, certain specialty things.
You have action and physical work on the stunt side of things, but you also have a lot of physical comedy in this. What's it like to find each of those things? Are they very different from each other? Do you find them both fun to do?
Oh, I love it. I just love the physical comedy that I grew up with, especially in the 90s, when you watch like the masters of it from people like Chris Farley and Jim Carrey and Robin Williams, like the geniuses of that type of work. But then I remember my acting teacher always told me, and I remember when we worked on the audition for this, she was like, play the reality of it and the ridiculousness of the stakes of you being pulled by this dog will make people laugh. But if you're kind of like sticking it up and making it broad, she's like, it kind of breaks the fourth wall. Like, if you're really committed to how much you're trying to control this 150-pound dog who has no interest in control, then the comedy will be born from that. And I think that's true. So I love it. And then with the action adventure stuff, playing a U.S. Marshal, I did ride-alongs with real U.S. Marshals. I spent a lot of time with them. I did a weapons training with Terran Tactical, who did the John Wick movies. So I was able to learn that stuff, so I didn't feel like a phony when it came to feeling like I could save someone.
But it must be so much fun to get to add the humor to it too, so that you're not just doing this dark cop drama. You actually get to have that side of it, but then also the comedy of it.
No, I think that's a great point. My friend who I made a movie with, he's a great actor named James Ransone, once said, I'm the kind of actor that can punch a guy in the face, but I'm going to have to go like this after. Like, and that's me. Yeah. Like I can do the cool action guy thing to a point, but usually I need that pressure valve release of like the funny moment that, because all of a sudden, if I'm adding that level to it, I feel like I belong in that world. Whereas you're right, like in a typical cop procedural playing the stoic, gruff, officer, I'm not sure that would be my strength.
Have you already had conversations and thought about what you would want to do in another season? Do you start to like come up with your own wish list of what season 2 could have for you?
Oh my gosh. I think like just knowing that there's so much to the show and there's so many relationships, like my sister played by Lyndsy Fonseca and the character of Erica, they're both sort of in the animal world, and knowing that they could team up and start working together. And that, my sister played by Lyndsy, her name's Laura Turner. So in a world, there could be certain episodes where Laura Turner and Hooch are solving things, and maybe I'm doing more of the recon work behind the scenes. And by that, I mean not getting licked by the dog every scene. But it just seems like with our cast and the possibilities here, I can't see these episodes getting stale anytime soon. I think there's a wealth of possibility.
It must be so fun too to have Reginald VelJohnson come on to set, sort of as that bridge from the original movie, but also just like, who doesn't love some character that he's played before?
You're so right. Having Reginald on set, I mean, obviously he played Tom Hanks's partner in the original, but he also is from Die Hard and Family Matters. And I'm such a stan, I'm such a Reginald VelJohnson stan that I'm sure at times he was like, why is the lead of this show bothering me so much? But I just wanted to know, like, when Jaleel White took off his glasses and became Stefan, like, was that cool? So he's a beauty and like a real actor's actor, like went to Tisch, went to NYU, like just a great energy to be around.
Yeah, he's just played such lovable characters that it's hard not to love him.
And a guy like that, who's like in his late 60s, early 70s, like could easily just be like hanging out, enjoying life. And yet he just wants to keep working, which I hope I'm the same way one day.
Well, thank you for talking to me about the show. I'm excited to see more of it. I've had so much fun with the episodes.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear it. Thank you.